Hello everyone and welcome to Tournament Center with me, Rich Hagon, and him, Brian David-Marshall. We're taking a step away from the main event here in Nagoya to tell you about some great stuff that is coming to a gaming table right near you, and that is M12, the new core set BDM. Lots to get excited about, and we've got some cards to show everyone at home. So take it away.
All right, well, let's take a look. We got 8 different cards for you to look at. The first card we're looking at is a piece of equipment.
Yep.
It's Great Sword.
And it really is Great Sword because it turns out it's about 12
huge.
foot tall.
It's an uncommon, and 3 mana to cast it, 3 mana to equip, and target equipped creature gets +3/+0.
Okay, now we're going to have a lot of new people because core sets are where we get a lot of our new players from each year. So just to fill you in, equipment, if you've not come across this before, you cast it, you put it onto a guy, but then when the creature dies, the equipment, the sword, it's kind of what you'd expect in real life. It hangs around waiting for your next elf, your next goblin.
It clanks to the ground, and then the next
with a nice decent sound effect.
Pick it up. Yep.
Yeah. And by the way, I think this is an amazing piece of artwork. This is a sword I would quite happily run people through with. So, all right, here's the next one.
Goblin Fireslinger. This is, at first glance, you might think that this is, what we call a Tim. He's sort of like a prodigal sorcerer, tap to deal 1 damage.
But it isn't creatures, is it?
This is not creatures. It's only red to cast, and Goblin Fireslinger deals 1 damage to target player. That, you would love it to do damage to creatures, but there's some stuff going on in the new set, as we're going to see with our next card, where this card's going to be really interesting. Let's just get in close right in here. A new keyword that's going on that we haven't seen since Guild Pact.
Yeah.
Is Bloodthirst.
So what is Bloodthirst then? So
Bloodthirst is when this creature enters the battlefield, if an opponent was dealt damage this turn, then you put this many +1/+1 counters. So in this case, Bloodthirst 1, you'd put 1 counter on the Duskhunter Bat. So Duskhunter Bat's a 2 mana creature, it's a 1/1 flyer, but if you've dealt damage to your opponent, it's a 2/2.
So if I have my Goblin...
Right, if you have the Goblin Fireslinger on turn 1, you untap, you tap it, you do a point of damage to your opponent, you play the Duskhunter Bat, you now have a 2/2.
Okay, now let me just check. It makes no difference, right? If I have, like, say, a lightning bolt,
you could also just attack.
3, that I'm only going to get 1/+1/+1. It doesn't matter how much damage I do. It's
correct.
Just you're either damaged or you're not for Bloodthirst, right?
Yes.
But if Bloodthirst 2 or 3 or 4, that's how many counters get on as the bonus. So Bloodthirst is a scalable effect. All right,
it just checks to see if damage was dealt to an opponent this turn.
Okay, let's move on to Trollhide. 2 and a green, enchantment, an aura. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2, and it has 1 and a green, regenerate this creature. Now, equipment is something we've kind of got used to. That idea we talked about with the Greatsword, that it sits in play and you can reuse it over and over. Enchant creatures BDM, they're a little bit different, and you kind of have to really invest in a card like this.
The aura, if the creature that the aura's on is destroyed, then the aura's going away, the creature's going away. It can be a bad situation, but what's really interesting about this is if you're playing Trollhide, this is a card that's going to let you protect your creature.
Yep.
Because of the 1G regenerate this creature, you're playing this, you're like, this is a creature I really want to stick around, so I'm going to probably wait till I have 5 mana.
I was going to say, as a kind of guide for beginners, you're going to say, yes, I can cast it for 3, but then I'm really vulnerable to what we call a 2-for-1. They cast their 1 piece of removal that kills your creature, and that means that you lose not only your creature, but your enchant creature as well. So instead, you wait, you get to 5 mana, and then it's hopefully relatively safe.
Sure, but maybe we've played our Duskhunter Bat on turn 2. It's a 2/2 now from Bloodthirst. Turn 3, we untap. We've drawn our mountain, our swamp, and our forest.
Yep.
We just slap this thing on and we're attacking for 4 in the air. You can sort of dial it 2 ways. You can play this more controlling, but you can also play this very aggro, just like a giant strength kind of card.
Okay, and it's common, so you're going to see plenty of them in draft as well.
Sure.
Let's go on to our next card. Ribbit. What a great piece of flavor text. Ribbit. I wonder who dreamt that one up. Probably Josh Bennett. Turn to frog.
1
and a blue. Creature loses all abilities and becomes a 1/1 blue frog. It's, in a way, I mean, the 1/1 bit, great. The blue frog, broadly neither here nor there, I guess.
No, absolutely
No?
not here nor there. Think about it. There's a lot
Okay.
of cards that say, like an Elvish Archdruid, and that where elves get a bonus. Well,
Okay.
it's no longer an elf, it becomes a frog. So this shuts off tribal synergies.
Oh, sure. The loses all abilities is
And
huge.
loses all abilities, right.
That's
So my
huge.
Elvish Archdruids now, it has no abilities. My
Yeah.
other elves are not pumped. Your other elves are not pumped. It's a frog, and so that, maybe there's some other Elvish synergies you have.
Uh-huh. Okay, so this is one of those cards that if you're going to be playing in limited, you're going to be watching out for. It's uncommon, so you're not going to see huge numbers of them, but you know it's out there. And blue, well, blue is tricky and cunning and so on,
Right.
but blue doesn't necessarily have a lot of great ways when you've got your big 6/6 green guy on the other side of the table.
Blue does not have combat tricks generally.
Yeah,
it
and
has some bounce or something like that, but this is a combat trick.
Yeah.
Instead of a giant growth, it's kind of like a shrinking your opponent's creature. Yeah, it's got a funny name. It's got this really cute, silly piece of artwork, but this is a very serious limited card.
Absolutely. All right, on we go. And, oh, hello. Yeah,
Okay.
I can't even reach as high as he is. This is Gideon Jura, one of your signature cards in M12.
So, to this point, when we've had core sets with Planeswalkers, the white Planeswalker has been a Johnny Goldmane.
Uh-huh.
Not anymore. Gideon Jura makes the leap from the advanced sets to core set. And we've seen this. This is a ferocious card. And it's a little bit different than the other Planeswalkers you see.
Yeah, let's talk a bit
It kind
about...
of breaks the code a little bit.
Okay, so what Planeswalkers do is they have loyalty. So they come along on your side and they are loyal to a degree.
So-
Down in the bottom right-hand corner, 6 loyalty. That's the number of counters that Gideon arrives at. Then if you come up to me, you say, here's the first ability. We can add 2 counters, and that means that next turn, the opponent's creatures will have to attack Gideon if they can.
And we've seen this become like a
Yeah.
staple play in a lot of standard matches where people play. They slam this card down. They say, "Great, you've got all these creatures. I'm going to make you attack Gideon. I'm going to tap your team. It's not enough to kill Gideon because Gideon's got 8 loyalty. You've got maybe 4 power of creatures.
Yep.
Send them this way."
And then, of course, part 2 comes into play. Take 2 counters off again, if you like. Destroy target tapped creature. Well, creatures generally have to tap to attack. So when they've done it off the first ability, when they're forced to do that, oh look, it's tapped. Kill it, thank you so much. And then...
So this is what's really unique about Gideon. Most Planeswalkers, almost all the other Planeswalkers, they have a plus ability, they have a minus ability, and then they have an ultimate ability, which is a minus ability, and it'll be like on Karn, it's minus 14 loyalty, do something preposterous.
Yeah.
Jace, minus 12 loyalty, do something
minus
utterly
9,
preposterous.
10, yeah.
Gideon Jura is an ultimate unto himself. He doesn't actually ultimate. He has a third ability, which is 0. You can only use 1 ability per turn on your turn.
Yep.
You can make him into a 6/6 human soldier that's still a planeswalker and prevent all damage that would be dealt to him. So he's just this incredible late game offensive weapon.
He basically stands there and says, just like the artwork, look everyone, it's me, here I am.
But it's not just him,
Okay.
because he's bringing a couple friends with him to the party
All right,
this time.
So, Gideon's Avenger.
Right, we saw in the in M11, we saw cards like Chandra's Spitfire, Jace's Ingenuity, cards that sort of played off the Planeswalkers in that set. Gideon's Avenger is one of those cards. Look at the ability on this card. Look how well it plays with Gideon. Whenever a creature an opponent controls become tapped, put a +1/+1 counter on Gideon's Avenger. So you have 4 creatures.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making you attack Gideon.
Yep.
And I have a 6/6. Suddenly my Gideon's Avenger jumps up to 6/6. Can get in the way of one of those creatures and just eat it. Right? It comes like an abyss.
Wow.
And you're still not killing Gideon, probably. It's phenomenal.
Let's see who else is in the family Gideon. Let's head back the other way. And this time, only 1 mana, we've got Gideon's Lawkeeper. A 1/1, so that's not exciting. But you're not playing it because it's a 1/1 for 1. You're playing it for this line right here. Plains, tap target creature. That is such a cheap tapper, it's unreal.
And this essentially becomes, I mean, it's a pretty 2 cards that you need in play, but a White Royal Assassin, right?
Wow.
I tap I tap a creature, and then Gideon's like -2, kill it. You're like, all right, I'm going to play my best creature right now. Tap it, kill it.
It turns out that this card, the Lawkeeper, and Gideon in particular, fantastic on their own, and Avenger, you start playing all three together. That is what synergy is. It's the sum of more than the parts. And M12 is going to be the sum of more than its parts. It's the new core set. Here are the 8 cards we've taken a look at. The Goblin Fireslinger, Gideon's Lawmaker, Trollhide, Gideon, Dusk Hunter Bat, the Greatsword. I still love that picture. Gideon's Avenger turned to Frog. BDM, I'm not going to let you have Gideon because you've played with that any number of times.
Sure.
But of the other 7, give me a card that you're going, yeah, I quite fancy a go at that.
The card I'm most likely to play in Limited or at a release event for M12 is going to be Gideon's Lawkeeper.
Yeah.
This is a classic common that you want to open in your pack. You know, if you're playing sealed, you'd like to have a couple of these. You know, if you're playing draft, you'd gladly first pick this every time. I really like Gideon's Avenger also. I think that this card's phenomenal. It becomes really, really difficult for your opponent to tack into this on the ground.
In Limited, you don't always have all the removal that you want. Anytime you can play creatures like Gideon's Avenger or creatures like Gideon's Lawkeeper that they really, really want to kill, that's the way to successful Limited, because they eventually won't be able to deal with everything.
I'm also really excited for Bloodthirst. That's a very exciting mechanic. I'm really excited to see it. I'm curious to see what it's going to do in Constructed. There's a couple of other cards coming up that have Bloodthirst that are in black. That may or may not be vampires. And there's some interesting stuff that's going to happen there.
Well, M12 is on the way, July the 15th, that is coming out. Before that, we have Duels of the Planeswalkers on Xbox, on PC, via Steam, the PlayStation Network. That's coming out pretty soon. And
several of these cards, Gideon's Lawkeeper and Gideon's Avenger for certain, and also Dusk Hunter Bat, appear in the Duels of the Planeswalkers 2012 platform.
And just to encourage people along the way, down to their friendly game store, as it were.
When you download Duels of the Planeswalker for one of the 3 platforms, you're going to get a coupon. You'll be able to go to your local game store and get one of these alternate art, exclusive Titan promo cards. They're pretty sweet. I got them. No one else has them.
Can I have them?
No. Go download Duels of the Planeswalkers. That's how you'll get it.
I'm going to go and download Duels of the Planeswalkers. Thanks. Thanks for nothing.
You're welcome.
Thank you. For Brian David-Marshall, I'm your host, Rich Hagon, saying bye.